The EBN Entertainment Broadcast Network presents, live from Chisel Multimedia Studio, the Chris Massey Atlanta Music Show. Here's your host, Chris Massey.
Hey everybody, I'm Chris Massey and welcome to the Chris Massey Atlanta Music Show here on the EBN Entertainment Broadcast Network. We're coming to you live tonight from our Chisel Multimedia Studios here in Atlanta, Georgia, and I'm joined as always by my engineering sidekick, Mr. Matt Roberts. Matt, how are we doing tonight?
All good.
All good. That's good. All right. First off, I'd like to thank everybody that came out to the Moonshadow Tavern this past Saturday night and partied with the CMB. We had a great time. It was a lot of fun, a lot of folks out there. And we will be back at the Moonshadow Tavern on Saturday, November the 2nd, with the Downtown Executives. So make plans to be there for that. It's going to be a good time, I promise you. Okay, so let's take a look at what's going on. Unless you live under a rock, you know that Jeffrey Epstein was found dead in his jail cell in New York over the weekend. Now, I find it funny on social media how once this happened, you know, people just go crazy with the conspiracy theories. Of course, people on the right say that it was must have been the work of the Clintons because in their past there have been some suspicion about some people they've had dealings with that have died. Of course, people on the left will tell you, well, it was Donald Trump. I mean, after all, he was in a federal jail which is run by the DOJ, and all these people work for Mr. Barr and for Donald Trump. Well, I've got my own conspiracy theory, and here it is. You ready? How about the guy hung himself in his cell? Okay? How about that? I mean, think about it. The guy's 66 years old. He's lived a life of luxury his whole life. He's looking at spending the rest of his life in an 8x10 cell. He is an international scumbag, okay? Nobody wants to be friends with this guy. Nobody wants to do business with this guy, okay? So the opportunity was there. He took a sheet and he hung himself. That's the story I'm going with. And you know what? You better get used to it because that's the only story you're going to get, regardless of what happened. But see, in America, we don't want to believe stuff like that. You know, we want it to be like a TV show. You know, there's got to be more to it than that. Certainly, he just didn't take a sheet and hung himself. I mean, look, he was going to have to rat out all his friends. I mean, there's no reason that this guy would want to stay alive that I can think of, you know, just me personally. Years ago when I was on tour with the band and we were touring across the country, we did a show in Dallas on a Saturday night. And Sunday was a travel day, and I got the opportunity to go to Dealey Plaza where John F. Kennedy was shot, something I'd always wanted to do. And I got there, and the first thing that hit me when I got there was how small the place was. You know, on TV, it looks like this big area, and it's really compact. And I was able to walk out to the street and stand on the X where the bullet hit President Kennedy in the head and look right up into the window of the school book depository where the shots were fired. And when I saw that, you know, the probability of what happened really hit me. And I did some research, and I came to find out that every single piece of evidence in that case points to Lee Harvey Oswald being the lone gunman. Every single piece. Now, all the conspiracy theories point to somebody else, but all of the evidence points to him. Now, nobody wants to believe that an insignificant little twerp like Lee Harvey Oswald could go up in a window with a rifle and pick off the leader of the free world. But the evidence says that that's what happened. Still today, if you're in a poll of Americans, over half of everybody in America thinks that he was not the lone gunman. You know, and why is that? You know, it gives people stuff to talk about. And this Epstein thing is not going to go away. As far as I know, there have been no pictures of the body, and the autopsy has not been released. So there's your another conspiracy theory. Maybe he paid enough people off to get himself in a witness protection program or something. I don't know. You don't know what to believe, but here's what you can believe. Tonight on the show, I have got WREK Ga Tech disc jockey Jon Kincaid, and the Georgia Satellites are in the video spotlight. So stick around. We'll be right back.
Red light.
Saw the Georgia Satellites at the 1986 New Year's Eve ball performing the song Red Light, which you can find on their debut album, The Georgia Satellites, and also on the EP they put out before they signed with Elektra Records called Keep the Faith. Now, I got a chance to see the Satellites when Keep Your Hands to Yourself was a brand new song when they had just written it. Rick Richards, who had been playing with the Desperate Angels, along with Keith Christopher, who was also in that band, teamed up with David Michelson. And they were jamming over in somebody's basement, I'm not real sure where. And wasn't long after that Dan Baird, who had been a lead guitar player for the Rabbits, joined them. And they formed Keith and the Satellites. I remember them doing a couple of Wednesday night shows down at the Bistro. Keith then left the band and joined the Brains, which also featured future Satellite drummer Mauro Magellan at that time. I believe that's correct. Anyway, we went down to Hedgens one night, and my high school friend Brendan O'Brien was playing bass with him at the time, and we saw him play. And when I saw him play, when I left the club that night, when I told people about him, I said, "You're not going to believe this song they got called Keep Your Hands to Yourself." Now, a lot of people will tell you that a band is good, but when they pick out a song specifically, and everybody's talking about that song, you got a hit. They played the bars for a long time. Record companies came down several different times. They all passed. Band broke up, put an EP out. Kevin Jennings took it over to England. Making Waves picked it up and distributed it. It got great reviews over there in England. And all of a sudden, Elektra Records was interested again. They signed their record deal and put out the single "Keep Your Hands to Yourself." Of course, "Keep Your Hands to Yourself" made it all the way to number 2 on the Billboard charts. Only Bon Jovi's "Living on a Prayer" kept the song from going number 1. The album was top 10. There were tours with Bob Seger, tours with Tom Petty, They headlined ballrooms. They played all over the world. Now, at that time in Atlanta, let's see, Riggs, the producers, the Brains, and the swimming pool cues had all signed record deals with major labels and done tours with big bands. But none of them enjoyed the success that the Satellites did. I mean, they were nominated for a Grammy. They were nominated for an MTV Music Award. People Magazine did a spread on them. I mean, for about a year there, they were really, really hot. I saw them on Solid Gold. They did American Bandstand. I mean, they were everywhere. They got a 3-album deal. The second album did not do well. The third album did not do well. And then the band split up. Dan Baird, of course, went on to a solo career. And today, the Satellites still play. My buddy Rick Richards still has the band, and they tour, probably do about 25 shows a year in various parts of the country. So, but I will tell you, there's never been a band I have ever seen where the overexposure deal did not apply to them. They played 7 nights a week, just about every week, or 5 nights a week, and they drew crowds everywhere they were. Everywhere they were. No, people could not get enough of them. I've never seen any other band able to accomplish that. And you know, they were the biggest band in Atlanta. They're there for a couple of years, I would say. All right, when we come back, Mr. Jon Kincaid. We'll be right back.
The sun is sinking slow in the desert sky. Another day has come and gone by. Here I sit without you, drinking my wine. California country in the summertime. I can hear the freeway outside my door. A voice inside me says she couldn't take no more. I'd pack up and leave, where would I go? This California country is all I know. There's no reason to the why. All the notes you left I read only said goodbye. Now this California sunshine hurts my eyes, while in NYC tonight all is fine. Nothing's bright. Still I see you hanging around in my mind. A heartache's where I know you ought to be. Here with me in the California country. With me in the California country.
watching the video California Country from my latest LP with the Chris Massey Band, and hope you enjoyed that. Okay, my guest tonight has been a DJ on WREK, the Georgia Tech radio station, for about 34 years. He has got a wide knowledge of the Atlanta music scene, and he is here tonight to talk about what he does on the radio and about the Atlanta music scene in general and how it's changed for better or worse in the last 35 years. Would you please welcome to the Chris Massey Atlanta Music Show, Mr. Jon Kincaid. Come on in, Jon. Have a seat there, partner. All right. Jon, it's good to have you here.
Nice to be here.
You've been on my list to get for quite some time, and you're one of those people that I've conversed with on Facebook, and it was finally good to get to finally meet you.
Yes.
And you don't have that beard in your profile picture there. You kind of threw me for a loop when I walked in.
Well, it comes and goes. I mean, it's like one of those things where I let it grow for like a year or two.
I got you.
Cut it off and then
Back at it.
back.
All right. So you told me that you went to Peachtree High School.
I did indeed go to Peachtree High School.
So you grew up over there in the Dunwoody area.
Well, that was if you want to talk about the Atlanta music scene, a whole bunch of the Atlanta music scene, especially when I was growing up, was all from that DeKalb County and that sort of northern Fulton County area, because you had people from everybody, the Night Porters to Driving and Crying to Follow for Now.
Tucker, Vietnam. we had the Mistakes, the Downtown Executives, Samurai Catfish. The Riddick Boys, Dave, who was in Riggs, and Heidi was in Swingin' Richards. They went to Shamrock. Billy Pitts went to Henderson.
Shamrock was also the Indigo Girls.
That's right, the Indigo Girls. I was on a talent show with them one time, as a matter of fact.
And they, we were talking about Tucker, David Lindsay, the reviewer, went to.
That's right.
He was from Tucker.
That's right.
Or at least he lives in that area.
That's right.
But musically, it was just interesting growing up at that time and finding out that all these people from all these different bands and were coming out of like these small areas.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, DeKalb County certainly had. I know at Tucker, where I went to high school, of course, Pranks was a big band then, and Brendan O'Brien and Mark Krause played in that band. And then Mike Hardy and Scott Hardy and Bobby Summerlin had the Downtown Executives. So when we came along in the Mistakes, there were already two bands from Tucker already playing the clubs. So when we made our way into Joe Seaton's office at the Agora Ballroom with our press kit, and we said we were from Tucker, well, they knew that there had been some good bands coming from Tucker. So I'm sure that helped us out. Now, you graduated from Tech, what, in 1990?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and by the time you graduated, you'd already been doing the WREK show for about 6 years, right?
Yep.
Okay. How did that come about? And is a DJ something you always wanted to be, or did you just kind of fall into it?
Well, music, I mean, I was explaining earlier, when I was 16, my friend Mike Zelazny and I went down to Mark Williams' show over on WRES and called Pure Mania, which was formative in a lot of people's musical.
That's right.
A lot of people. Mark was very knowledgeable and was playing a lot of stuff that you weren't hearing anywhere else.
A lot of local bands.
And bands from England that you'd never heard of.
We got played on the Mistakes. We got played on there, not regularly, but we got played on there from time to time.
We went down there, and Mark, the first time we went down there, Mark wasn't there. He was getting his hair cut. And there was a show on before it was called Your Generation, which was like a 60s show. And I think Mark told the guy just to keep playing music, but we brought some records down, so he started queuing them up. And some of them Mark's thought were okay, and then I had a single by this band called The Rotters called Sit on My Face, Stevie Nicks.
Yeah.
And Mark thought that one may have been pushing it a little.
I got you.
But
I got you.
There you go. But I started at Tech, and radio was always one of those things that, they weren't like rock stars, but they were like people. And it's like, I remember going to a movie theater and sitting there, and I don't know if you remember Jamila Moynihan, who worked over at REK, and she basically did this show that was the precursor to mine. I was in a movie theater, and I was sitting there going, that's her. I hear her talking, and all that. And so eventually we came in, and Jamila had a spotty career at Georgia Tech, we shall say.
I got you.
And so they sort of forced her way out, and they brought me in to sort of fill that spot. And I'd been working there for about a year at that point in time.
Okay.
So they knew I knew what I was dealing with, talking about, and things like that. And so I started my program, Personality Crisis. First radio program was the day after, or 2 days after, no, day after Tech beat Alabama in 1984.
I remember
Last
that.
time those two teams played.
Yes, I remember that.
And I think Alabama's been afraid to play us since. Doesn't surprise me.
I remember that game. I remember that very well.
Last time Tech played Auburn, Tech beat Auburn. Auburn's been afraid to play us since.
Yes, you guys used to play Auburn just about every year.
Yeah, they did, absolutely.
And you played Tennessee often too.
Yes, we did. But so I started that back in '84. It was actually, I think, the night or two after the first MTV Music Awards. In fact, speaking of showing your MTV video,
Mm-hmm.
and so started doing that, and it's on Sunday evenings from 10 to midnight. At that point in time, it was only 10 to 11. There was another program that came on after that got split off to another day, and it's still there.
Okay.
It's two of the programs that have been going in continuity with people who have been involved with the show the exact same amount of time.
I got you. Okay.
So,
Now, when you were working at the radio station in 1989 and the Rolling Stones came to Grant Field for the Steel Wheels tour, did the radio have any involvement in that?
no, we didn't have any, although we had this, we have a show called Live at WREK where bands perform live at the radio station. Mm-hmm. And the guy who was the mixing at that point in time, we were throwing out this weird idea of how do we get a hold of them to get them down here?
Okay.
Because I just thought that would have been the
yeah.
greatest idea in the world would be to pull. I've had the idea with Elton John as well, just to figure out a way to sneak them in here when no one's paying attention.
Absolutely.
And have them come down and perform live. But I mean,
stranger things have happened.
we've had,
Well, I saw that they were the Stones were in New Jersey not long ago, and Mick and two of the his bandmates, they didn't say who, but they just went into a diner one morning and ordered breakfast and sat in there, and nobody paid any attention. The waitress figured out who they were, but they just kept it low key and left and with no fanfare at all.
I wonder if it was Chuck was one of them, just because that would have made sense, since people wouldn't have recognized Chuck. And
that's true. That's true. It may have been, and Charlie would have probably been the other one.
You could people pick up on Charlie.
Yeah, well, that's true, but I mean, the average Rolling Stone fan is going to know Ron, Keith, and Mick.
I'm still stunned over the fact the last time they played here, I saw a video of Keith running.
Sorry.
Keith running on stage.
Yeah,
I think it was sound
how about
check.
that?
He was running, and I was like, no, he's not. He's running. I told the joke when Mick had his heart operation recently. I said, you realize that Charlie's had a bout with cancer. Ron Woods had a bout with cancer. Mick had the heart thing. And then Keith was the healthy one.
Yeah, so far.
That's just...
So
that's
far,
just insane.
it seemed to have been that way. Now, on your show, you told me you basically play whatever you want. Is that right?
Pretty much. It's a variation. I mean, the general focus was always, starting back then, it was called like new music. It wasn't new wave or whatever, and punk and things like that. Mix it again, but it's power pop and ska, and it's just generally, if I like it and it's good music, I think it's good music, I'll play it. So I'll go back and pull stuff from the 60s. I was listening yesterday to a band from Florida from the 60s called We the People. And so they're probably going to get some airplay in the not too distant future.
Oh, very good, very good. Now, the music scene in Atlanta, and when I was talking with you the other day, you said that there really isn't one anymore.
It's not a real cohesive one.
No.
I wouldn't sit and say there's not a music scene, because there are bands, there are good bands out there.
Because when we came up in '80, which was the year the 688 opened, the Bistro reopened that year. The Agora was having local bands fill in any dates. They didn't have national acts, which is something that I'm disappointed that the Tabernacle has never done for whatever reason. I don't know why that is.
I think their cost of running that place is a little bigger.
Might be, but the push for the support of local music from such a great venue then was just unreal. And if you were a local band and you had a gig at the Agora the night there was a concert at the Fox, and all those people got in free at the Agora with their Fox ticket stub, I mean, that was the gig you wanted.
Yeah.
Because it would fill up in no time, But it did seem like back then that everybody knew everybody in the scene. I mean, even we were so young, we still knew people, and we were introduced to people, and people were very nice. Now, here's the thing about it is that everybody pulled for each other, but it was very competitive. I mean, it was very competitive. It was like, it's kind of like when a guy comes in fishing. And he's got a whole bunch of fish on his line, and the other fishermen say, where'd you catch all those? And he goes, somewhere out there. That's how it was. I mean, if you ask somebody, wow, how did y'all get that? You're not getting any information. You had to really kind of do it on your own, and everybody did. And so that's something that's the older I've gotten, that's changed now. There's really. You get to a certain point in your life where you're not competing with anybody anyway, on any kind of level, and, if somebody calls me and says, have you played so-and-so? Yeah, who do you talk to over there? I'm always happy to give them a number or contact or whatever. But back then, you held your cards pretty close to your vest, because you give a gig away to somebody else, that's one that you're not going to get.
Well, it also got to, I don't know how it was necessarily with the Agora, but with 688, it was one of those things where I've gone back and looked at the list I had for shows I went to, and it was seeing that, that local band opened up for this big, huge national band.
Right.
And that happened all the time.
Yeah.
And I don't think that really happens as much anymore, which is detrimental to both the... to the club in an extent, because it doesn't expose bands that could play on a Tuesday night when they don't have anybody booked, and it's detrimental to the bands because it keeps them from, people coming to see a big band finding out about them.
Right. Now, the national acts that played to 688 back in those days, the vast majority of them had one record out. Okay? So they're only good for one set. Like the Vapors and Gang of Four and the Psychedelic Furs, and Wall of Voodoo, and Big Country, and 999, and all these other bands that came here, they're relatively new bands. So that, so you're going to have some opening acts.
Yeah.
Their budget does not allow them to travel with an opening act. So they were dependent on the club to supply the opening act. They didn't care who it was or what, there were nights I was there where the opening act got a, pretty good applause, and,
I saw
and a lot of support,
There was a band called the Dream Syndicate.
I remember them.
They opened up for the Blasters. Mm-hmm. And it was the only time I ever saw a opening band get 2 encores.
Is that right?
Yeah,
is that
688.
Right? Well, REM opened up for 999 there.
Yeah.
When, right before they hit it big. The Roys opened up for the Go-Go's, and stuff like that. Even a little band like us, the Mistakes, we got a gig with DOA, which wasn't everybody's taste, but it was packed that night to see them. A lot of people, that band from Vancouver. And you did what you had to do to try to get that opening spot for a major band. And that's still pretty much the way it is today. But now, bands, they have to okay, like I was telling you, they want to okay who's opening for them. They don't want the local hero getting up there and opening the show for them. A lot of these bands go with acoustic acts or whatever. Yeah. So when they come out, they're really the energy takes place then. So I don't understand why it is like that, but that tends to be the trend now.
You reminded me, talking about opening bands, one of the worst things I ever saw. There was, after 688 closed, it became for a short period of time a club called the WREK.
I remember that.
Horrible name. They actually had a thing to pick that name. There were a committee of owners chose that name. Awful name.
Painted the front of the building black and had some red lettering and stuff.
Yeah, and they painted over Iggy's list and all that stuff.
That's right.
So I went and saw Bo Diddley there. And there was some English band of you never heard of them. I've never heard of them since either. They opened up. Might have been, well, I'm not going to say what their name might have been in case I'm wrong. But I remember standing there, and Bo was not at his peak at that point.
Right.
He was doing like reggae versions of some of his songs. And
Oh,
stuff.
wow.
And so it was kind of hard to watch. But the English band was standing there in the crowd, and I was standing right near him, and there I heard them going, "Hurry up and get off the stage, old man, so we can rock some more." And I was like, that's Bo Diddley, you.
Well, respect is something that not everybody has.
Correct.
What can I tell you? So, John, we can hear the show on Sunday nights.
Correct.
From 10 to 12.
Correct.
WREK, and where is that on the dial? That
91.1 on your FM dial. It's also www.wrek.org.
Okay.
All programming available live and a 2-week archive.
Okay.
So you can hear, you missed it this week, and go back, or last week, and hear 2 weeks later.
John, I appreciate your good work supporting local music and pushing it out there. There's not enough people out there doing that, and you've been at it for a long, long time, and I know a lot of bands are certainly appreciative of what you've done for them.
I'll push one thing right now. I'm wearing a shirt, a band called Ricer. That's my friend, a band. You were talking about how good a guitarist Brendan was?
Yes.
She's probably better.
Is that right?
She's good.
Well, I'll have to see that. Thanks for being here.
All right,
Jon Kincaid, everybody. We'll be right back.
I'm not going to take this anymore. I'm sorry.
So what, that's it? You're just going to go? April, come back. April, come back. Oh, hey, Jack. Nah, I'm okay, man. It's like I slept in the truck last night. Hey, you didn't happen to see April last night, did you? Oh, okay. I could tell you to tell her I don't give a damn. But this hurt is hard to hide behind the blue in these bloodshot eyes. So you just tell her I'm too high to cry. And this old bar's the only place that feels like home. Here I can fool myself
sad song. Too high to cry, too stoned to care about what she's doing with who and where. Now when I come down, there may be a tear before it hits the floor. I'll be drinking beer and getting ready to fly. Too high to cry. Getting ready to fly, too high to cry. Yeah, I'm getting ready to fly, too high to cry.
All right, you were watching the Too High to Cry video from my latest album, California Country, here on the Chris Massey Atlanta Music Show on the EBN Network. For being a guest on the Chris Massey Atlanta Music Show, Jon Kincaid will receive a 6-month supply of Rice-A-Roni, the San Francisco treat, a case of Turtle Wax, and a 6-pack of O'Doul's non-alcoholic beer. O'Doul's non-alcoholic beer for those times in life when you only need to look like you're having a good time. All right, we will be back next month with another guest. I apologize that we were not here in July. We had some difficulties, but we're back up and rolling, and we will see you in September. All right, see you then.
Too much fun, too much fun.